In the recent NBA draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves landed the top pick in the draft and decided to take Anthony Edwards. Right now, they have the worst record in the league, giving them the best odds at the top pick again. Now, due to the newer odds, they're actually tied with both the Pistons and Cavs, but for this video, we're going to be going based on the league standings, and we'll sim the lottery at a later date. If the Timberwolves actually land here, there's no question who they would take despite the roster fit, and that's Oklahoma State point guard Cade Cunningham. Cunningham went into the season projected to be the top pick, and that hasn't changed. I've seen a couple outlets have him falling 1 or 2 spots, and that's just absolutely ridiculous. He's a point guard standing at 6'8" with a 7-foot wingspan. That alone has people excited, but as a freshman, his skill set has been on full display. He's averaging 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists, shooting 43% from the field and 45% from 3. There's been some concerns. Currently, he has a negative assist-to-turnover ratio, which you barely see at the point guard position, but that's not going to stop the hype for him going into the draft. There were some question marks around his shooting, but he's gone out there and shot 45% on almost 5 attempts, 18 games into this season. That's really raised his ceiling. Yes, this team has D'Angelo Russell in a contract for 2 more seasons, but when you're dealing with a prospect like Cunningham, you select them and then you figure out the rest later. Plus, with the frame he has, he's not really limited to one position, but who's going to come off the board after him? The Pistons sit at 2. Now this pick is interesting. I think it's between 3 to 5 players. I see Jalen Suggs mocked here a lot, but despite Killian Hayes' struggles in his first season, I have them holding on to hope and selecting USC center Evan Mobley. As every year goes by, I'm becoming less and less supportive of big men going with top picks, but out of the recent top big man prospects, Mobley might be the exception for me. He's 7 foot with a 7'5" wingspan. In his freshman season, he's averaging 17 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 blocks, shooting 60% from the field. The stats alone wouldn't convince, but he passes the eye test. The coordination at that size, you just don't see very often. Now, he's only shooting 33% from 3 on low volume, but I think floor spacing is going to be a huge part of his game going forward. You pair that with his rim protection, and the Pistons just might have the center of their future. They're in a weird spot, and this just might be a best player available selection, but for right now, I've got them going with Mobley here. At 3, we've got the Cleveland Cavaliers. Early in the season, it looked like they were really starting to click, but it looks like they're again gonna go into the lottery with some of the best odds at the top pick. Here at 3, based on their current roster, I think their selection is pretty clear, and that's gonna be 6'8" forward Jonathan Kuminga. Cavs point guard Colin Sexton is really breaking out, and their top pick from last season, Darius Garland, has shown a ton of improvement in his second season. So despite the recent selection of Isaac Okoro, I'm gonna have them go with Kuminga. If you're going to have too much of one position, you want it to be your wings, as they typically are some of the most versatile players on your roster. Kuminga came out of high school as a top prospect. He was one of the youngest players in the class. He isn't even halfway to his 19th birthday. He decided to go to the G League, as we talked about in a recent video, and he's averaged 18 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists. The Cavaliers have really struggled in the post-LeBron era, but things are slowly starting to turn around, and I think Kuminga would really speed things up for them. 4 is going to be the Washington Wizards, who are getting one, if not the biggest riser of the season, and that's 6'4" point guard out of Gonzaga, Jalen Suggs. This season, he's averaging 14 points, 4 assists, and 5 rebounds, shooting 51% from the field and 37% from 3. His playmaking, combined with his ability at all 3 levels, has caused scouts to get really excited about his arrival. The Wizards obviously have Russell Westbrook right now, but I don't think any current player is or should affect their selection. Beal is most likely on his way out, jumping them into a rebuild despite the presence of Westbrook. Now, I think the selection would be close between him and the next guy that's going to come off the board, but for right now, the Wizards are going to go into the future with Denny, Rui, and a Suggs young core. At 5, we've got the Orlando Magic, who are taking the last of the Tier 1 prospects, Jalen Green. Green is another guy we talked about recently. He came out of high school as the top player in the class and hasn't disappointed at this point, playing in the G League, averaging 17 points a game. His freakish athleticism and natural scoring ability give him one of the highest ceilings in this draft, something Orlando needs. With both Markelle Fultz and Jonathan Isaac returning by the time Green would make his debut, I think this team would actually be fun to watch, which I haven't said about an Orlando roster in a very long time. 6 and 7 are actually in the hands of the same team, that being the Oklahoma City Thunder. 6 is going to be coming from the Houston Rockets via the Russell Westbrook trade. This is an interesting team to mock, as there's so many directions they could go. They obviously have their future point guard in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but aside from that, there's nothing stopping them from really going with any player at any position. With the first of their 2 picks, I've got 6'9" forward out of Florida State, Scotty Barnes. Now, Barnes isn't a flashy selection. He's got a ways to go as both a shooter and scorer, but with what he expects to be as a defender, with the help of a 7'2" wingspan, and him being a very good playmaker for his position, he's going to bring this team both a ton of value immediately and upside going forward. With their second selection, they're going for scoring, getting 6'5" shooting guard James Bouknight out of UConn. This is another guy that's flown up the board. As a freshman, he averaged 13 points a game, shooting 46% from the field and 35% from 3. This season, he's averaging 20 a game. Now, Bouknight isn't super well-rounded, but man, can he score with the ball in his hands. He's got a great ability to create for himself off the dribble, make contact, and catch fire in an instant, which we saw early on in the season when he went off for 40 points, which really raised his stock overnight. On the season, he is shooting just 31% from 3, but he's only played in 7 games, so I don't think that tells the full story. Personally, as a Thunder fan, I would love these selections. Getting these two on top of all the draft picks they have coming in, things would really be going in the right direction. At 8, we've got the Houston Rockets via the Miami Heat. The Heat have really struggled at this point, but this is a team that was just in the NBA Finals, so it's hard to say whether we can really expect the Rockets to be selecting this high in the draft. But with them here for now, I've got them going with former Duke forward Jalen Johnson. Now, this is an interesting prospect as he just decided to leave Duke in the middle of his freshman season where he was averaging 11 points and 6 rebounds. He personally decided the desire to get 100% healthy for the NBA draft, but many are speculating it was sparked by frustrations of not starting in his last 3 appearances. It's tough to say whether or not this is going to affect his draft stock, but for right now, the Rockets are taking him at 8. 9 is going to be the Pelicans, who I have taking 6'6" shooting guard Moses Moody. Every year, I've got a favorite prospect projected to go in the later part of the lottery. In 2018, it was Mikal Bridges. In 2019, it was Cam Reddish. And most recently, Tyrese Halliburton. I don't hit every time, but I'm batting pretty solid. I'm just a huge believer on not overthinking it. This year, I'm going to go with Moses Moody. 6'6", 7-foot wingspan, averaging 16 points, shooting 37% from 3 as a freshman. The skill set we saw at Montverde, he is brought to Arkansas. At the very least, you know you're dealing with a great 3-and-D player, but to discredit his upside would be absolutely foolish. The Pelicans really need to figure out this roster, but man, I would love them having Moody going forward alongside Zion and Brandon Ingram. I really think this is the perfect selection for them right here. The Hawks are here at 10. This team doesn't have an obvious hole to address, so when in doubt, draft a wing. They're going with Zaire Williams, a long athletic small forward who's got a lot of potential as a shooter despite his efficiency as a freshman at Stanford. This is not one of my favorite selections so far, but it's what we've got for now. I would really hope the Hawks would actually use this selection in a trade to really get this team closer to contending. The Kings are here at 11. I'm interested to see what they do with this backcourt. They've got Hield, Fox, and Halliburton, but I'm just going to have them getting an absolutely lights-out shooting forward in Corey Kispert. In today's game, you've really got to be doing something special if you're going to get drafted in the lottery as an upperclassman, but that's exactly what he has done. He just might be the most efficient player in the country right now. He's averaging 19 points, shooting 56% from the field and 47% from 3 through 21 games. It's actually insane. At 12 is the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls are always annoying to mock because they've got a solid young player at every position. That being Kobe White, Zach LaVine, Patrick Williams, Markkanen, and Carter Jr. No matter who I select, I already know there's going to be some Bulls fans in the comments crying about the fact that they don't need a player at that position. I'm going to have them going with 6'4" combo guard out of Tennessee, Jaden Springer, who's averaging 12 points and 3 assists on great efficiency as a freshman. 13 is the New York Knicks. It feels weird to be talking about them this far down in the lottery, but I have them going with another Tennessee product and 6'5" freak athlete shooting guard Keon Johnson. I really like the fit of some of the higher up prospects for the Knicks, but as of right now, this is what they are dealing with. For the last pick in the lottery, we've got the Memphis Grizzlies, who are going to go with Franz Wagner out of Michigan, brother of former first-round pick Moritz Wagner. Man, is he an interesting player. He's a 6'9" shooting guard. You don't see that very often. He's still very raw, but man, is the upside there. He's averaging 13 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 assists, shooting 51% from the field and 37% from 3 in his sophomore season.